Okay, so I hope you can see me. I have to do this video. I just have to, okay? Is this working? There's a dog on me. Alright, this video is about the different stages, okay? The stages that I've been through, as a person in this dimension. You guys hear me talking about dimensions all the time. So I'm in this dimension, and you go through stages at different ages. And all these different stages start when you come out of your mother's vagina. So it just starts right then. You come out. Alright, this is the stage of how it is around birth. Okay? You ready? Okay, birth. So like your brain it doesn't got anything going on. It's completely blank, which is cool. You still see angels. Birth. And this lasts for a while, you know? And then everything starts, and people start telling you what should take shape, you know, mama, dada, and all this other crap. And baba. So you're getting ideas now. Everybody's throwing these new information at you. Baba. You know, you notice you've got 5 senses. You see your foot and you don't even know what it is, you know. You don't even know it's attached to you. You see your hand and you're like, whoa, what's that? You know, so that's the baby part, alright? That's the best part, in my opinion, of the whole time period in this dimension for this little short span of, if you're lucky, 80 years. That's not even lucky. I think it just doesn't matter. There's no time anyway. So you need the baby. And then you start going into the 2 and 3 and 4 and 5-year-old stuff. And you're like really playing like crazy, you know, and you're having fun. You're like, wow, this is really great. You know, I look at the world. Ooh, I'm going to build blocks. I'm going to make block towers. Ooh, you know, I'm going to talk about poop and farts. And ooh. And so you're really having a really good time. And that's the good times. You know, I'm going to climb a tree. Oh, look, a worm. I think I'll eat it. You know, those are really good times, right? Whoa. Right? It's a wow. Great times. And then you get up there and then all of a sudden it's like you're getting older, and then you hit around 10 or 11 and you're still having good times, but people are like kind of saying, well, you're going to be a teenager soon. So you start thinking, I'm supposed to take things seriously now. And you really don't want to, because you're like 11 or 12 and you're like, man, I'm still having fun, you know. I'm climbing trees, I'm swinging on swings, I'm picking my nose, I'm farting in my friend's face, you know, I'm lighting my farts, I'm having fun. And then around 12 or 13 or 14, then your body starts changing, and you're like, what the heck? Whoa! Right? And if you're a girl, don't even talk about it. If you're a boy, don't even talk about it. You don't even want to talk about all that creepy crap that's happening to you. And then the adults really start laying it on you, and they're giving you a really hard time about, oh yeah, you gotta start taking yourself seriously now because your body's changing, and now it's really time to get serious, you know, because you could get pregnant, and you're like, ew, and this is how you have sex, and you're like, ew, and you don't want to hear any of that crap. You want to go back and play. You know, you want to climb trees and pick your nose. And so when nobody's looking, you still do that stuff. But when you're around your friends, then they're hearing the same crap from their parents, and they're doing the same damn thing. We're supposed to be serious, you know. So then you go through teenagerhood, and then you're like, oh my God. And that's when the big ego starts. The ego thing starts. So you're like a teenager, and you're going, oh, I'm going to have to become something. I'm just going to have to become something. I'm just going to have to be something. And your parents are like all over you about going to college or becoming something. Luckily, my parents didn't do that to me. They were like, get out of here. We have 5 other kids to take care of, so move out as quickly as possible, please. Which was great, because then I could do whatever I wanted. Even though I went to college for like 6 years and didn't even graduate, and I didn't care. I just took whatever I wanted. Shakespeare, but my ego is huge. So you're 19 years old and your ego, and I'm going to be an artist, and I'm going to be an actress, and I'm so beautiful, and I'm so this, and I'm so that, and you like got yourself all worked up into being something, right? And so then you go through that whole period in your 20s. I think the 20s are an extension of the teenage years. I think from 16 to like 30, that's your teenage years. Seriously, that's what I've seen in my life anyway. It's just like, that's your teenage years, right? Anything up to 16 is like just a baby and a kid and just having fun climbing trees. Up 16 past that, teenage years. Because you're all screw everything up in your 20s. You're like, oh look, alcohol. Oh look, this, oh look that. Oh look, I can have sex. Oh look, I better be careful. Oh, I'm so depressed, and then there's a lot of people around you telling you, whoa, you have to do this, you didn't accomplish this, you didn't accomplish that, and you're really susceptible to criticism because everybody around you is telling you what to do and who you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to become, which is total horseshit, but you don't know it at the time. And you're listening to them and you're like, oh my God, I'm 25 and I haven't reached this point, or I'm 30 and I haven't reached this point, And who knows what's going on. And maybe your parents got divorced, maybe one of them crossed over, maybe something hard happened in your life. But you don't know how to be compassionate with yourself yet, right? So you're like just like really taking on all this criticism and trying to like fit everybody else's needs of what they want you to be. And that's like unbelievably hard, okay? I know, I remember. So when you get into your 30s, and maybe you've established yourself in a job or a career, you've gotten married and you've got kids, or you got a kid, and then you think you know everything. It's like, I'm in my 30s. I don't need anyone to tell me anything. In fact, I can give advice to everyone I know. I'm in my 30s now. Haha. And I did that. I actually did that. I was like, I'm in control. I have this incredible behavior, and I work very hard, and I do many things, and I am so important, and I've reached my 30s, which is an incredibly brilliant age, and so your ego's like really big, and all that conditioning of fitting other people's needs and following the rules, and you're doing it all, and then maybe something comes along and pulls the rug out from under you, like it did with me, but wakes you up, but still, you still got that, yeah, I can take care of this, I'm in control, I know what's going on, and I'll tell you what's good for you, and I'll do this, and blah, 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 blah. So you're all in your 30s, and you're like all about yourself, and you're telling everybody about your kids, and you're like, oh, see my kid, and not knowing that kid could possibly be hit by a car tomorrow. I found that out later on, that you can't control anything, but in my 30s I thought I could, and I thought I knew everything. I was so pompous, I was so prideful, I was so full of shit, it was unbelievable, and I thought I knew what was good for everybody, I thought I knew what was the best thing, I was on the total track of like, boy, I know everything, and then bam, not everybody gets it. So then you get into your 40s, and then you start thinking maybe, you're getting old, so then you're like, but you're still pompous, you're still kind of pompous, and you're like, look what I've done, oh, I'm so pompous, and I know so much, and yet I am getting old, and so you either like let your hair turn gray, or you just dye it, and you're like, but I am getting a little older, so you're starting to wake up just a little bit, okay, just a little tiny bit's waking up in there that maybe you're not gonna be in this dimension for much longer, so you're like, dang, I'm in my 40s, that's getting close to 60, right? So your pomposity's still there, your ego's like huge, and you're really sure of yourself still, and now your kid's like a teenager or something, and you're like, well, I know everything, and I just know everything, and I can tell you everything that you need to do, and the helicopter parents are the worst, like, you're going to go to this college, and you're going to take this to their kids, and so, and you're going to be this, and you're going to be that, and so there's that, and then there's, other parents who are a little, but you still think everything's just, going to stay as it is. And then you hit 50. And then you get around 50 and you're like, oh my God, my kids left home, you're empty nesting, you maybe have gotten a divorce, You're starting to get the idea that you don't have as much control over things as you thought you did. You were really a big shot when you were younger. You thought you knew everything. All that stuff that your parents told you or your grandparents is starting to make sense now for some reason. You're like, what? So then you're really kind of getting it finally in your 50s maybe, and I'm not saying everybody, and I'm not speaking for everybody, that you're getting old. And so that means you have to face your own, quote, mortality, unquote, which is what you've been taught all your life, is that you're your body, and that's all you are, which isn't true, but, I mean, I know that now, but I didn't know it at the time. So then you're like, what the hell, you know, maybe I don't know everything, you know, maybe I don't know about that, you know, so then you're like getting in there and you're like, God, I'm getting old, and you're freaking out. Now you can take one or another route. You can freak out because you're in your 50s and you can say, well, I got to dye my hair and I'm going to get a facelift, and I'm going to try not to be in my 50s because it's really scaring me. And you're starting to get a little scared, and that pomposity is starting to wear off about how incredible you were in your 30s, where you knew everything, I know everything, you know, when I'm in my 30s, ha ha ha. And so then you start freaking out. All right, so you're in your 50s, and then finally you hit 60, okay? And we're talking linear time, which we all know doesn't exist. I mean, most of you should know that by now. If you read quantum physics, you'll figure it out, okay? Or meditate. Anyway, I'm not going to preach. All right, now so you're in your 60s, and you're like, oh, excuse me, I am old. Yeah, I'm old. Whoa. And you're like, wow, I'm in my 60s already? How'd that go by so fast? And you're like, dang, you look at your clock. I don't wear one because I don't believe in time. So you look at your watch and you're like, dang, I don't have that much time left, you know. I could go any second. So then you're like, wait a second, I got to go backwards. So you start going backwards. And the more you get into your 60s, the more you realize you're going to 70. Well, when you were a kid, somebody who was 70 was like really, really old. So you're still thinking from kid thinking. And you're like, 70 is really, really old. Shit. Holy God in heaven. I'm going to die. Ah! So then you think, man, I better start having some fun because I didn't have any fun. All I did was act like a pompous ass the whole time I was in my 20s and 30s trying to become something that everybody else wanted me to become, and trying to prove to myself that I knew everything, and I was prideful and arrogant, and I thought I knew everything, and I don't know shit. And yikes, you know, I better get ready. And so then you're like 61, 62, 63, and then 64, and you're like, there's 70 right in front of me. Dang. Okay, forget all that stuff I did in my 30s and in my 20s. I'm going back, way back. What was the most fun you ever had? When you were 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 years old. Yes, that's where I want to be. I want to go back to her. That's the fun. I want to go back to her. I'm finally getting smart. No more ego. No more pomposity. No more, I know what the proper thing to do is, or I know how you should do this, or giving advice to people. You've been giving advice to people all your life. Stop it. You know, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't care. You're in your 30s, you don't know anything. You're in your 20s, you don't know anything. You think you mean well. You really mean well, but you really don't know anything because you're not having any fun, especially if you're like working at a job you can't stand, or you're like paying bills constantly and you're like, oh God, my life is so full of difficulties, you know. Well, what are you doing that for? Don't do that. Ah! Have fun. Go back to 6 and 7, even when you're in your 20s, even when you're in your 30s, even when you're in your 40s. Go back to that little kid that's having fun and playing and being goofy and enjoying himself. You don't have to take any of this seriously, because then when you start looking at that watch and you say, dang, I'm almost 70. I'm going to have some freaking fun now. I want to climb trees. I'm going to dig holes. I'm going to make pictures. I'm going to pick my nose. I'm not going to care what anybody thinks. I'm not gonna dye my hair. Well, I mean, I don't care if you dye your hair. Maybe I'll dye it green just for fun. I'm gonna get a nose ring. I'm gonna play now. Now it's time to play again. Because I sat around for decades being serious and thinking I knew everything and I was fitting into the community and I was fitting into what other people wanted me to be. No more. Now I'm getting old. Now, whoa, not much time left in this stupid body. Gonna dump this sucker some point. So might as well have fun with it. Might as well be goofy. Might as well wear wigs. Might as well make silly YouTube videos. Might as well hang upside down from trees. Might as well have parties. Might as well be silly. Silly. And then you get really old and you're like, my God, the whole thing was just a joke. It was just supposed to be fun. It wasn't supposed to be anything more than that. And you kind of look back and you tell your kids who are in their 30s and stuff, you're like, don't take it seriously. It's not serious. You know, and you don't know everything. And you think you do. And you don't. I used to do that. I would tell my neighbor, this is the right way to do things. Or my girlfriend, this is the right way to do things. I was so pompous and so arrogant and so full of shit. And so, like, I'm not doing that anymore. Every one of you is doing exactly the right thing right now that you need to be doing. It's none of my business. So, it's just really fun. It's supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be play. That's it. I just know that now. None of the pomposity and the arrogance and the ego and all that other terror and fear of being a young person, it's all gone. Thank goodness. I would never want to be in my 30s again. Ever. Or my 40s. That would be horrible. I was so worried about what other people thought. I cared so much about how I looked and what I was like and what other people thought of me. What a nut. Never again. I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I mean, I don't even care about anything. I'm just like free. Finally. So that's my video. And I am going back to the baby. He's like, oh, look. I see angels. That's where I want to be. And I'm letting that happen. Back to the angels. I'll play until then. Anyway, that's my video. Had to say this. Had to say it.
Don't be serious.